Hey everyone, I'm back. I am back. I'm glad to be with you guys again. I told you I'll be back. I know I'm a little late. I was supposed to have got back with you guys Friday, but some stuff came up. I was dealing with some things. We still get affected by, I won't call it a sickness no more, but the situation that we're dealing with, anxiety. I'm not scared to call it out. And depression. And so things happen, and I had a couple of episodes. So, it's still things that we're all dealing with. But like I promised, I was going to come back and I was going to continue where I left off on why this happened to me. I didn't figure this out until later on. Why I feel the way I do sometimes, or I can't control what happens to the way I think sometimes, or the way I feel. So, and again, my goal is to help, whoever's going out there, help whoever's going through the same thing. Help them to deal with this. I only got 14 views last time, but hey, 14 views is 14 people that looked at my video, and maybe it made sense to them. What's going on with me might be going on with them. So again, welcome back to Anxiety Get Together. And again, this is going to be part 2 of where I left off in part 1. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Just telling you my background, where I came from, and hopefully you can understand how I got there, and maybe you can do the same. Maybe you can understand from what I'm telling you, maybe how you got to where you are if you don't understand yet. So I grew up in a small town in Los Angeles. A lot of you people might not know where that is. That's in Southern California. And a little small town called Compton, California. Now, a lot of you maybe seen that on TV or heard about Compton, California. It's not so good of a good town. Let's just say that. But me being 8 years old, growing up in a home with my mom and dad, I didn't know no better. I thought that things were good. I always seen them together. I remember times when me and my mom and dad was together, doing stuff together, going to get something to eat. So I didn't think nothing of it. And that was my far memories of my mom and dad being together. So after a while, I started noticing that my dad wasn't around. I would say around 8 years old. I noticed that I was with my mom, spending a lot of time with my mom a lot. And I didn't think at the time to ask her why, my dad is not here. Why, that wasn't something that, was in my mind to ask them at the time. Maybe he was out working. I didn't know where he was. But then I noticed that my dad would come pick me up and take me to go stay with him for a little while. So that's when I figured that something is not right. But then I figured it out that they had separated and they were living in separate homes. A lot of times my dad would take me to San Diego, and then it was okay because all the rest of my family was there. And we did a lot of stuff together. Sometimes I would see my cousins. All of my cousins was there. My mom's sisters, my mom's brothers. So whenever I would go down there with my dad, I would have just as much fun. But coming back up and being with my mom was a church person. She stayed in church. We were in church like 4 to 5 times a week. That's all I knew was church. I never got the time to go spend time with anyone else. All I knew is I was from church and back to home, church and back to home. My mom had me in private schools. So I was going to private schools. That's all I knew was to go to private Christian schools. And it was just more church and more church. I don't have nothing bad to say about that, because at the time, again, I was so young. I was 8, 9 years old. So church was kind of, it wasn't bad, but it was good. But to be honest with you, I didn't like going so much, because I felt like a kid my age, like to do other things. Like sometimes I would sit in my mom's living room and look out the window and see all the kids out there playing and wonder why I couldn't go outside and play. And it would be kids my age. And I mean, everybody on the street would be out there playing tag, playing baseball, playing football. But for some reason, she just wouldn't let me out and play. So that was my life. Church was all my life. Being around her friends, church. Everybody she knew was about church. Phone calls that she got to the house was about church. But like I said, in a way, now that I'm older, I'm glad that she did turn me old, let me introduce me to God, because he is my higher power. But, at the time, it was something that, something that she liked to do. And I was always there. And I do remember too, I used to spend a lot of time with my sister, my oldest sister. We would do a lot of things together. I don't have memories of doing things with my mom. Like, for example, my sister, she took us to Disneyland. She took us to Magic Mountain. She took us to parades. She took us to different places, museums. We were always going to like Universal Studios. She worked, she was an RN, so she worked for Kaiser. So that's a hospital here in Southern California. And so she would get discount on tickets. And all my memories, I remember staying with my sister a lot. But she will always be the one to take us places. And all the memories that I have of the memories of my sister. And I don't have any memories of doing stuff with my mom. I don't know if she was the type that didn't like amusement parks, or she didn't like roller coasters. She didn't like that type of environment. I didn't know at the time. I just, my fun memories is with my sister. So I got close to my sister. As I start getting older, spending time with my mom, I start noticing little changes in her. This is around 9 years old. I start noticing how, because she would have me do stuff around the house. She would have me clean the house. She would have me do chores. She would have me do different things. And so, again, me being older, I'm happy because she taught me how to do those things. But I appreciate what my mom taught me. I feel like that teaching me how to clean, teaching me how to go out and cut a grass, or send me down the street to go help a neighbor do gardening. I thank her for that, because it taught me morals of when I got older, that I knew how to do these things. However, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun because if I didn't do it right, I noticed that she started getting angry a lot. I noticed she started to get about little things that bothered her if I didn't maybe wipe the table correctly, or if I left something around the house. I noticed that she would scream and yell. And this was all new to me, because I didn't know her of being like that. The time that I spent with my dad, he never was like this. Me and my dad seemed like we had a great relationship. He never would scream at me. He never would yell at me. He always told me that he loved me. He always told me that I was his favorite. Whenever he went somewhere, he always asked did I want to go. But with my mom, it was the opposite. With her, she never asked me did I want to go. I don't think one time in my whole life have my mom ever told me that she loved me. Not one time. I can't remember one time. However, things have started to change, and I noticed that her personality started to change. She was more aggressive. She started to be more aggressive. And maybe she was aggressive before I started to notice. But as we get older as kids, we started to notice different things. And that's when I started to notice. It seemed that I started to get on her nerves all the time, being in her presence. She was never happy when I was in her presence. Whenever I tried to talk to her about a situation, it would get up under her skin. Whenever I talked about something, it didn't make sense to her. It was always stupid. Or, what are you talking about? Shut your mouth. She started to look at me different, I noticed. For example, in church, we'll be sitting in church. I am still young, 9 years old, considered an adolescent. I'm not knowing. I know how to act, but it's certain things that you do as a child because you want to be a child. For example, you might be in the same room with your friend, or friends that I had at church who might be laughing and talking. She would turn around and look at me mean and stare at me. And I know some people in the world has been through this, but the way she used to look at me was in a different way. In front of church members, she would embarrass me, scream at me, talk down on me in front of people. Again, I didn't know what was happening. I just figured that that's just the way she is, but deep down inside, the way that I understood and the way I felt, it made me feel different. It made me feel different when we would be at home and people would come over and she would yell at me in front of them. Why is she being like this? Still, again, I'm only a 9-year-old kid getting yelled at in front of people, but no kid wants to get yelled at in front of nobody. However, the way it made me feel at that particular time, it wasn't a good feeling. I was so confused about the whole situation, wondering, why is she being like this? Why is she acting like this? Why is she always screaming at me? Why is she always looking at me like that? Why don't she never let me explain myself when I tried to talk? This situation was getting really, really confusing to me as a 9-year-old going into 10 years old. I didn't really understand too, when my sisters would be there, that she wouldn't talk to her like that. I would watch my sister and my mom have a normal conversation. And if I walked in a room, they would both look at me like, what are you doing in here? Or why are you here? It was just really confusing to me how things were going. I didn't understand why if I said something to her or answered a question, even the question didn't make sense to her. The question was more as, that's stupid what you're saying. Or that doesn't make sense. Or just shut up. That's dumb. You sound dumb. You sound stupid. And I sit there, a 9, 10-year-old going to my 10-year-old. I didn't say nothing. But I always wondered, now, Why did none of her friends say anything? Why wouldn't they stick up for someone like me? Getting called dumb in front of them, getting called stupid, looked down upon, telling me that I better not say nothing else. It was very hard. But still and yet, I didn't know that that was damaging me for the future. I didn't know that that was doing something to me. Maybe she thought in her mind that that was the best way to raise me as a boy. How do I know? There's a lot of people that got raised like this. But to me, I didn't know what that meant at the time. I thought when she was calling me stupid, she was calling me ignorant, I'm dumb, I can't say things right, be quiet, shut up. Every time I tried to raise my voice to speak out, I figured that, man, every time I try to say something, I get shut down. It was to the point where I know that a lot of times when I looked outside and I could see all those kids out there playing, I knew that they were kids. Because sometimes when we would leave, I would see like the neighbors that had came over to introduce themselves. Or sometimes I might get a chance to go out in the front yard. That would happen sometimes. But we had a gate around our house. And so I would see a lot of the kids out there where they lived at. And I knew that a lot of the times when I looked out the window, that all those kids that were out there playing, I knew that they were kids from the street. We had a huge street. We maybe had about 50 to 60 houses just on one street. And I'm not exaggerating. It was a very long street. And most of the houses on our street, fortunately, it was kids everywhere. And those kids would be out there playing. But I knew a lot of times when she was screaming at me and yelling at me, the windows would be open. And those kids can hear her calling me stupid or yelling at me or telling me that I don't make sense. And that was very embarrassing. But at the time, I still didn't know what she was doing to me was hurting me. I just knew that when I looked out the window, I would see sometimes the kids looking back in the window. And I knew that they heard it, what just happened. Turning 10, still going through this. Our family from San Diego, which I told you, they all are from San Diego. They used to come up. And we would go to San Diego for Christmas. I would spend time with all my cousins again, my aunties, my mom's sisters and brothers, and all their kids. We have a really big family. And then they would drive up for Thanksgiving. However, when they would drive up for Thanksgiving, she would still yell at me sometimes in front of them. She would still say things to me and call me names in front of them, even to be called names in front of my family. At the time, I didn't think that that was hurting me. As time went past, this is when things started to get worse. I was doing something one day and I didn't do it right. And there was a person that was inside the room where we were, another grown-up. She got mad because I didn't do it right. That was the very first time she brought up her fist and socked me in the face and told me, "What are you doing? You're not doing that right." When she hit me, I just seen black for a minute. And then a flash of light went through. And then I opened my eyes. It felt like I opened my eyes up again, but the whole time my eyes were open. It's like when you get hit real hard and you see a flash of light and you black out for a minute. And then I realized that I had got hit in the face so hard because I said something wrong. Because I did something wrong. What was the cause of that? So I just wanted to let you know that I don't want to bore you. I'm going to stop right here. There is going to be a part 3 next week. But I just do want to let you know that part 3 is going to be a little bit more. It's going to be bad. I'm going to tell you some things that might disturb you. I'm going to tell you some things that it is parental guidance. And I'm going to tell you some things that you probably never heard anyone ever go through before. So if this is boring you, I just want you to stay tuned for the next part. I did not want to make this series a very long series for each section, but just long enough so you can understand. Part 3 next week, I will be completing my little series, small little series, and then we'll move on to something else, something positive. But I'm going to tell you right now, that what I'm going to tell you next week, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. It's going to be things you probably never heard before. And the only reason, again, why I'm telling you guys is because I want you guys to heal. I want to heal. And I want everybody to know that you're not alone if you ever went through this before. So until then, I appreciate you coming, listening to what I had to say, taking your time out. Even the 14 people, I appreciate you. I appreciate you listening to me. It means a lot to me. And I want to be someone who also maybe you feel like you can listen to. And hey, don't forget to subscribe and like. Leave a comment down below. If you want me to talk about anything, if you feel bad for what I'm saying, if you have any inspiration for me, anything, leave a comment. If not, it's okay. But I will be back, and I'm going to continue, and I'm going to continue to do what I said I was going to do, to reach out. And I'm going to reach out. And I want to help as many people as I can, because I feel like that I have a lot to offer. I have a lot of knowledge to offer. I've been through a lot of things, and I want to share it with all of you in the world, in the whole world. And I'm going to keep pushing, and I want you to keep pushing. So until then, share my story. Tell somebody about my story. I want everybody to know. This is Anxiety Get Together. And I'll see you again. Bye for now.